Hello, you're watching France 24 in Paris. I'm Karen Roberts. We begin in Uzbekistan, where President Islam Karimov has died at the age of 78. Karimov presided over an authoritarian regime for more than 25 years. His critics accuse him of having carried out appalling human rights abuses and rigging elections. Opposition groups are banned and some 10,000 political prisoners are thought to be behind bars. Andrew Hillier takes a look back at his life and his legacy.
He ruled Uzbekistan with an iron fist for more than a quarter of a century and headed one of the most secretive regimes in the world. Islam Karimov first came to power in 1989 as Uzbekistan's Soviet Party boss. He became the country's first president in 1991 when the Soviet Union collapsed. Karimov leaves a sinister legacy. Political opposition is banned, and independent media outlets are practically non-existent. He was elected to a fourth consecutive term as president in March 2015, winning over 90% of the ballot. Rights groups called the vote a sham. In 2005, hundreds of anti-government protesters were gunned down in the town of Andijan. In the West, the US was criticized for not speaking out enough against Karimov, a key ally for Washington in its war on terror at the time. According to Transparency International, it's also one of the most corrupt countries on the planet, ranking 153rd out of 168. Uzbekistan has the highest population of all the Central Asian republics, but the largely state-run economy is a mess, giving rise to a flourishing black market. The big question now is who will pick up the reins. Most analysts point to the Prime Minister or the head of the security services as possible front-runners. Whoever does take over, Uzbekistan is in uncharted territory.
War reporter and Russia and Asia expert Anne Niva says the question is whether Karimov's successor will look to the east or to the west.
Uzbekistan has never really chosen between the West and Russia in the post-Soviet time, and that was the strategy of Islam Karimov. So that's also a very interesting question. Will his successor be able to choose? Because Karimov was able to kick off the Americans from their base in the mid 2000s, and now he had better relationship with America. But he was playing Russia against America. So, but as you know, the war in Afghanistan is still going on, and Uzbekistan is still a key player in the region.
Hello and thank you for joining us. Uzbekistan has declared 3 days of national mourning after the death of President Islam Karimov. He is one of Central Asia's most authoritarian leaders, ruling the country for more than 25 years. Our correspondent Steve Rosenberg has this report from Moscow.
He was the archetypal dictator, all-powerful, brutal. Islam Karimov ruled Uzbekistan with an iron fist for 27 years. He even put his own daughter under house arrest. But tonight's state television ended nearly a week of rumours about his health. Our dear president has died, said the announcer. A great man, a man of peace. His critics would dispute that. Karimov created a police state, one of the most repressive in the world. He imprisoned thousands of opponents, and in the cotton fields of Uzbekistan relied heavily on forced labour. In 2005, President Karimov ordered his army to crush anti-government protests in the city of Andijan. It's believed that hundreds of civilians were killed. Karimov blamed the violence on Islamic extremists. A former British ambassador to Uzbekistan believes the West was guilty of staying silent.
Well, undoubtedly the West turned a blind eye to human rights abuses in Uzbekistan. Initially this was because of Afghanistan, the fact that the Americans and the Germans both had air bases in Uzbekistan operating into Afghanistan. But the strategic position of Uzbekistan has led to the West really being, shamefully neglectful of the human rights position in Uzbekistan and at times lying about it.
And President Karimov continued to be courted both by the West and by the East. Russia competing with China and America for influence in Central Asia.
The reason that Moscow and Beijing and the West will be watching very closely what happens next in Uzbekistan isn't only to do with geopolitical rivalry, it's about security. If there's a power struggle over who succeeds President Karimov, the fear is that Islamist militants in the region will exploit that to destabilize the whole of Central Asia.
But Karimov's critics say he used the fight against radical Islam as an excuse to crush all opposition. And yet, in Uzbekistan tonight, there is said to be a deep sense of shock. After a quarter of a century in power, many Uzbeks have known no other leader. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.